So let's take a seat. So we actually invited you because you all run organizations in the startup ecosystem. And I think you're very well, you know how to build relationships, and it is a key part of basically your daily life, also networking, coming to events like this. From your experience and from the startups experience that you work with, how much of a role do you think networking and building these relationships, networking plays in the definition of a successful career, or actually making sure that your startup succeeds further? Whichever wants to go first. Yeah.
Could everybody raise their hand so we know you actually hear what we're saying? Hey, nice to see you guys here. So networking, of course, that's the key to success, because it's about people, and you need to know people. You need to find your targets. Who do you think is the right person, organization to help you move forward where you want to go? So it's number one critical is to building your network for sure.
Right. Hi guys. Nice to see you here. A little bit weird design of this panel. I'm a little overwhelmed, so bear with me. Right, so I run a startup association in Latvia, right? And oftentimes I get this question, so is networking important? Can I do without it? Well, yes, you can, you know. There are two ways of perhaps building a startup. To go the hard way, to learn, I don't know, from the books, from the TV shows, whatever, dig it yourself with your team. And there is the other way, learn from others, do it frequently, and startup ecosystem is the ecosystem where everything changes so quickly. So if you want to find some shortcuts, perhaps, to learn from the best and quickly without spending time on theory and making your own mistakes, then yes, you will choose the networking part. So on any day, I would vote for networking, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I second what both you said, and definitely networking is the essential part. We are people, we are social creatures. It's all about connecting with each other, and we connect for anything. And when it comes to work, business, especially in the startup ecosystem, where we are dealing with founders who are at the first ropes, especially that they're looking for the final concept of the business, that they're looking for funding, they're looking for clients. I mean, that is absolutely the best skill to develop, and the best skill to nobody really teaches us. It's a bit personal, like some of us, they're born with it or it looks like it, and some others instead don't. So I think that within the ecosystem, within the tech ecosystem, you can find a lot of people with which you can train and exercise this particular skill, so that you can achieve and arrive to whatever destination and whatever goal you have.
And maybe a small disclaimer, when I guess we are talking about networking, we don't mean just, partying together, drinking beer together, which is all very nice, but it's not necessarily networking, right? We also mean here strategic networking, when you know what you're doing, when you know who you are seeking to talk to, when you dismiss those, free riders and time leeches, yeah? I mean, we all, I guess, have a shared experience of that.
Yeah, fair enough. I can definitely agree that I think it's an easier way to learn quite a lot of skills, and at least within organizations, it's definitely a faster way to move forward. So my next question was about how in the kind of like previous centuries, there used to be gentlemen's clubs where men used to go to and build their business relationships, but also to relax, because that was the only place that they could go to actually, get away from the house, but a part of that resulted in building these business relationships and helping each other and so on. In the kind of growing years and in the next decades, that I feel like has kind of stayed. We don't have obviously that many gentlemen's clubs, but we still do have these closed circles of founders, and I've heard about these WhatsApp groups where you do have kind of like founders connecting and being a part of it, and still having kind of like closed circles where like-minded people share ideas and kind of like ping pong and maybe actually build business relationships in the future. And that has kind of systemically been more prone to among men rather than females. Do you think that has played a role nowadays of how women and men perceive business relationships, and how common it is, and how kind of like, let's say, easy it is to build them? And also, in your experience, maybe you've seen such groups, and maybe you've been a part of it, a part of some of these groups. Do you have you experienced and have you maybe thought about the fact that they do help you in your business creation, and they do help you in your career, or maybe even not being a part of it influences how you perceive yourself or maybe your ambition in your career? Does it play a role in being a part of these smaller groups?
I mean, certainly, but I also would say that it is the system, in my opinion, changed, and in a way, we all have our small circles. It doesn't have to be a gentleman's club. Like when we go through our education, we have our circle of friends with which we study, share experiences, all-nighters, and then of course, with time, when we grow up and we go our professional career and paths, we at some point re-meet and we find out like, oh well, this time I have this business opportunity, would you like to come on board? Or I became an investor. It has happened to me, for example, that some friends that I haven't talked with long time, all of a sudden they pop up back as early stage investors, and I was quite surprised. And I think this is honestly a fundamental aspect, that the network, the circles that you create are going to foster your success. And also, as personal experience, being an expat, I'm from Italy, but I lived in Estonia, Sweden, and now currently in Denmark. Every time you plant yourself out somewhere and you drop somewhere else, you have to build from scratch your network. And this is very important. It's something that it is very relevant. Wherever you go, you have to be able to create this new circle. So I think it's nothing static. It's something that you have to be able to create yourself in a way or the other.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to also elaborate. Have you felt that in your experience, the circles that you've had, the smaller networks, for example, from university, have in some way influenced how you've gone around in your career, maybe, or made decisions?
I would say no. Like in the end, I always like this made my choice. And for example, I came from a master degree about strategic entrepreneurship. Many ended up in banking. Many ended up in consulting. I ended up working for TechBBQ, which is okay.
Right.
So
bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Olga?
Right. I actually do have a very different experience. Also lived in a few countries, and I totally understand the pain of establishing yourself each time from zero, and then you have some tools maybe to avoid the stage 0 and jump to the stage 1 or 2. But in my life, for sure, these bubbles are important, and I'm a part of bigger bubbles, smaller bubbles. Some of them overlap, some of them are world apart, and I do see the benefit of being in each of them. It's tremendous work to be active in those bubbles, so at some point you have to filter away perhaps whatever doesn't serve you well. Maybe you outgrow, or you go different directions. So it's natural, nothing bad about that. And with relation to startup ecosystem, yes, I do believe that those bubbles of different size, it's perfectly fine, and everyone should be a part of it. The worrisome thing starts when those bubbles start to isolate themselves from the rest of the world, and they lose touch with reality. Then it's a rotten bubble, as I say, right? So, and if we visualize that, for instance, my life, yes, it's definitely a bunch of bubbles, and like Venn diagram or Venn diagram, right? So some overlap, and you do see like great, like I leverage those overlaps, if you know what I mean. So I do think that startups and female founders as well, female in IT altogether, they should be in the bubbles. And the size, by the way, in my experience, correlates to the extent of support you can get, because the smaller the bubble, the more family-like atmosphere you can sustain, right? The bigger the bubble, most likely it's a friendly environment, but you won't get so I want to say intimate, but maybe it's not the right word, but like so private and so
close.
deep, exactly, so close with each other. So all of that works fine, and I think it just enriches you.
Yeah, so about the gentlemen clubs nowadays, there's of course ladies clubs happening. Like for example, I'm I'm advisor to this one organizations. I'm not even allowed to enter, basically.
All right.
It's only for females, so maybe they will change in the future. Hopefully, but yes, definitely. I've seen the more female-only stuff happening also, which is good to have your own circles. But then, of course, we need to mix it up in there eventually. And then I can say I've been part of some, and still I'm maybe part of some very smaller groups of, let's say, 7 people meeting once a month, once every 2 months. This little kind of group thing somewhere for sure. Does it help? I think when you can bounce ideas or get creative with in a smaller circle, it always helps, and you can help the others also. It's not also about yourself, it's about helping others also in that sense. So for sure, super important, and find those organizations, try to join or create your own group. If you don't find a suitable one for you, create your own. That's a good way to come up with the right kind of topic or attitude for yourself.
Yeah. Actively look for friends. It's a good thing to start in TechChill, of course. Okay, thank you guys. So my next question was about specifically females and women in the startup ecosystem. So at least in Latvia, we actually have more women organizing events and leading kind of startup organizations. But we don't have that many founders. And also I wanted to connect with the fact that more often so, women are the ones who are in the communication field. They're the ones who run PR agencies. They're the ones who work in PR and communication. So my question is, do you think there's something innate that is there for like females trying to choose building relationships and communication? Or is there something else dealing with the fact that, for example, there's quite a lot of females in communication and actually in leader positions in startup ecosystem, at least like in our region, but not even close enough of founders, even though both of these roles are kind of leadership roles. So yeah, why do you think that is? And is there something innate in that that is kind of throughout the years?
Maybe just to complement Lina's question, for the sake of our guests, last year, at the end of the year, we did a research about startups. 153 got in our research, and 16% of all startups had at least one woman as a shareholder. In this case, a shareholder as original founder or maybe private investor, but only 16%, just for your background information.
Okay, how many here in the audience of the ladies are founders? No? Almost. You wanna be maybe? No.
2.
I can't hear you, unfortunately. But not too many here in that sense. But for the event industry, I've definitely noticed, and the communication, there's a lot more women than men like coming to the industry. Same for some reason, I've noticed I've organized food tech events, and food is very fascinating. Food tech also, we see, because normal tech events or no standard B2B SaaS, whatever it is, majority is guys. But in the food sector, I see a lot more women also. And I'm moving towards the food myself, so that's kind of like good in that sense. But where does it come from naturally? I think women are multitasker by nature, and guys are more straightforward. I can do this one thing, but because ladies can manage multiple things at the same time. Oh, I have a baby here coming up, and I need to. So very old times. So in that sense, women are maybe more capable of also managing more complicated things than guys. Maybe that's one of the reasons that men don't have the capabilities.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see as well that there's a majority of women in position of marketing, communication, PR. This is at least in our field of events, and also having an overall big picture within the tech ecosystem of the Danish tech ecosystem. That is also something that we tend to see. We also see pushes and attempts of changing the trend to sort of have more female founders and to have, of course, also more female investors. And in that sense, we see also the formation of more of these gentlemen's club or females club. And this is a very interesting trend because, in my opinion, there has always been sort of a natural tendency of women taking care of this overall big picture. Like they care more about the connections, they care more about the overall communication and the overall sort of how things go through.
Yeah.
They don't really look in the success or the sort of the hard numbers sales or the more the partnership or how many sales has been closed. Because of course it's not 100%. It's not like all women like that, but it's definitely a trend that you see. It's a more of they focus more on their soft skill rather than being this hard sort of a guy that go to it. And this I think it also reflects a bit in the career choices that are taken, as well as the position that are covered within the general field.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly comment on that. That I think there's quite a lot of reasons. It's always not one. One of the reasons that I also thought about something that I was mentioning today in the presentation, that role models, and if you see quite a lot of women in the startup ecosystem, naturally you feel like, oh, this is an okay place to stay. Here's Olga, I can be Olga, that's fine. Like I feel safe, yeah, I could do this. And then you do your best work in this field that you feel like you have someone there who kind of basically agrees that you can also be in that position. So maybe you gravitate towards the field that you can see someone like-minded in there as well, that goes with the groups. Like you see a group of women already in the startup ecosystem, organizations, you're like, that could be my group. I have so many like-minded people here. Why don't I go and work there? But on the other hand, in those startups, maybe you don't, like it's all just young male boys just out of university. They don't want to mingle with you. They feel like you don't understand them. And you're like, okay, well, that's maybe not my group. And then you kind of push into career choices. It's just a thought. I'm just thinking around like different things that we've researched as well, and somehow like these groups could influence your thinking, and seeing role models maybe influences, but that's not a fact. That's just a thought.
Right,
comment.
and maybe just to add to that and to share some my like life anecdote. I remember speaking about why women gravitate towards certain things. It has a lot to do with upbringing. I remember myself in school, right? And there is this subject where you have to learn how to take care of the house, both boys and girls. I'm not sure if it's the same right now, but back then we were split into two groups.
It's changed only a little bit,
right?
It's very similar.
And so imagine the guys were doing all the fantastic things with the wooden in the workshops, like building something from the wood and the metal and cutting stuff and whatnot. And I was learning how to marinate fucking pickles, and. Okay, I mean, yes, I like pickles, but I was really interested in actually seeing what's happening there. So ever since I developed huge FOMO for like in general, I'm very prone to that. And it's, I'm still quite young, right? So, and it's still, it's a part of me. It becomes a part of me. And so, okay, right now you see a CEO of Latvian Startup Association, but hey, hello, that's the girl who is also bringing this to other people in one way or another. So I do think that in some capacity I bring that, I don't know, role models, right, of a woman being in the kitchen, maybe sometimes. I mean, I worked very hard to get rid of that stuff. But still, it's the role model we were attributed a long time ago. And yes, there is a shift. Yes, there is a change. I mentioned those 16%, right, in the 153 startups which have at least one female shareholder. And some might say low, some might say high. It depends what you compare with. But if we look in the dynamics, it's a good trend. Years ago, it was below 10. So there is growth. But I have bad news for you. It doesn't change overnight because it has to do with mentality, with how our brain are wired and what we are programmed in a way to do. So we have to unlearn what we've learned and learn better.
Yeah,
for sure. In the investment side, we've seen nice steady increase in the Europe of the investors being female, even partner side, but the investing into female-led startups is lagging terribly behind, unfortunately. It's like 2% of Europe. It's like peanuts. So we really need more of you guys to start companies, and ladies especially. We got plenty of guys, but like I don't know what's the kind of like the hold up there, and is it like a risk-taking adversity there, or what's kind of like a holding up and getting the confidence there? Let's do this. Like maybe you need to kind of like find a way to somehow mitigate the risk or the worry of will this succeed or not. It doesn't matter, just do it, you know. It's more important to get going and start doing something worried is going to succeed or fail. And the road, the path is the more important. So you have to take a little bit more risk, I would say, and be bold on that.
Yeah. I think we had a question, actually. Yep. Can we share a microphone? Yep. Please remain somewhere close.
Hello, thank you. I want to comment on the partial prejudice and myths around women in certain positions. My name is Baiba Rubes. I come from an organization called Novatore that is focused on women's economic empowerment. Your question was, why are there so many women and less men in, for example, communication and marketing? Studies show for decades that women tend to take, I'll put it the other way around. Men do not take positions easily, whether it's in health, education, or marketing, that are not deemed as prestigious enough, or where the income is of a certain level. So these two aspects play a very large role in very many places. Secondly, in business in general, women tend to have sort of a break in their careers, if you want to call it that, and it's different across Europe or the world for that matter, is when they have babies. And the progression and the possibility to accumulate wealth or strategic power or whatever it is broken for a large number of women. That's sort of number two. Third one is I think at one point you said, and then in the startup environments, women don't ask that much about hard numbers. I'm making this very simplistic and, want to have more around relationships. I would claim that's untrue. Because if you look around the business world around the world, but for sure in Europe, you have a whole lot of CFOs that are women. And those are very highly prestigious, contested, well-paid positions. So it's not about that. So I think there's somewhere has to be a welcoming environment. On one hand, I think you're very right. It's about behavior. But things are not as, girls just step up to the mark. It doesn't work that way. Look at this room. I come from the world of business. I don't have a problem with, male-dominated environments. But look at this room.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments. Yeah, I definitely agree with the marks. I think we previously also on one of those researches talked about how exactly that point where women take a break from a career very often. And very often it's at that point where they're just before that peak that takes you to the managerial positions, because it just coincides with the age. Unless you go over it, which is a bigger trend now, for example, in London, the more and more women are giving birth after they're 35 because they've gotten that break, they've gotten into that position, and now I can relax because I'm there, and now it just will slowly go forwards, and I'm not gonna be taken aback. But yes, we're slowly running out of time, so I wanted to just switch over to the last question and do an overview of it. So events like these and other types of events, they serve the networking purpose as well. So we can be here, network, all these women here who are also listening, they can use this to network, and they're organized, and they're technically, as we're feeling like it is, it's diverse, it's open, everyone's inclusive. Why is it still so that we still see less women in the networking events themselves? Maybe you have thoughts on this. And the final question is, do you have any tips and tricks for networking and for kind of finding friends where you feel like you're a bit more shy? Or maybe on the opposite side, invite people who are more active and more towards the extrovert side to use some of their activities to go and talk to the people who are less shy. What are your tips and tricks for networking? And do you feel like the ones who don't network that well need a bit of a push and needs,
I mean, I can start, and definitely, I mean, as said, a skill is something that you can improve. It's like a muscle. It's like going to the gym. So yeah, definitely, maybe you will be awkward in the beginning. Maybe say something that you feel is not really right, or at least you think. But first of all, it is something that you just try once, twice, and it will get more natural. And then at some point you will realize that, especially in this circumstance, everybody's here to meet, everybody's here to learn, everybody's here to achieve something, be it finding funding or just like reaching out to some stakeholders such as Baltic 15 or of course other public institutions. That is definitely the trick number one, and also keep that in mind. No pressure. Like everybody's here also has their own insecurities. So, despite everybody looks very professional and nice, when you talk to them, they also feel maybe a little bit intimidated by talking to someone that they don't know. So
use the imagine them naked strategy.
if it works for you, yes.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of ways. One is to get a wingman or a wingwoman and work in a team a little bit, or invite somebody, join a group. And then, of course, very important when you talk to somebody, well, show that you really are interested about them. Don't start, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, blah, blah, my company's doing this. Pitching, that's not the right way. Rather, show real curiosity of the other person, or what are you doing, or where are you going next. And then that's the much better, nicer way to start a relationship, that you actually show interest in the other person instead of it's about me. That way
really
you get bored very quickly in that sense. That's kind of like a very important part of the show that you're genuinely interested. If you're not, then move on. That's okay too. If there's no match, you can't be perfect match with everybody, but you need the numbers game. It's a lot about numbers game to find those perfect matches and building those friendships, because it's about people. It's about building a relationship. Maybe we don't have something today, but maybe in 2 months I'll meet somebody. Oh, you should talk to Olga about something. So it's like thinking long term there when you're building relationships.
Definitely. Right, and I totally agree with that. And even to elaborate further, I do see quite often that networking for some people, it boils down to looking for 3 years to sit on or a stage to perform on and let someone validate you. It's not what you actually should be doing in networking, right? So I do agree. Just step back in a way that you listen to what the person is saying. You don't seek for, I guess, like immediate resolutions or solutions to your problems or some things or investments. Right now, sign the check or no. You make yourself more aware of who the people are, what they're doing, and yes, at some point, most often, the dots will connect. There will be a day when you realize, aha, I met that person, and actually today I can pick up a phone and I can reach out, right? But maybe a small comment. I don't think we touched upon that about this, events which load us with energy, which inspire us. Thank God it's happening, face to face.
Now it's happening.
The fatigue from online is just too big, right? So yes, you really get high on this energy, but it's very rarely that after an event we go and change the world. The event really loads us with energy, but then what needs to happen is a systematic programmed approach to helping, be it female in tech or any other, group, marginalized group, whatever we talk here about. So, and I do think there are a lot of organizations doing this support, Riga TechGirls being one, but there are also others. But about these opportunities, it's a very tricky thing, oftentimes, I also perhaps observe that we release the opportunity out there. Let's say there is a webinar, there is a seminar, there is a workshop, a mentor, whatever, and we think that the job is done there, but it's not, right? The opportunity out there does not mean anything if it's not used. And so we should go back. In this case, we talk about women, and we should see, okay, first of all, do they know about this opportunity? And yes, we do quite good communication, I believe, and info campaigns around all the opportunities. But that's one, do they know about it? And second, do they want to be there? And they might not want to for whatever reason. And this is where we should dig deeper. Is it in the head? Did we create the safe space for them? Do they feel comfortable doing that? What are the barriers why they don't go and grab the opportunities? Because the opportunities are increasingly more out there, but the want, the I will, that's where I think is the issue, and this is where we should work more on.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like especially about webinars and events where you want to go to it for information, but sometimes you know that it's going to be intimidating because you don't know anyone there. It could create it does create situations where just people are less likely to come, especially those who don't feel that safe in that environment. And I think it's also our goal, and we need to think about it when organizing events, when doing such whatever type of startup events, to think that when you see a stranger walking in, they're lost, talk to them first. And I know that this is a fault that I usually do. I go to an event, and then I know all the startup ecosystem, and I go to my friends, and I talk to them, and it's like, hey, how are you doing? I want to check in. But one of the first things would be actually to make sure that everyone else who's coming in, to firstly say hi to them, talk to them, because they need it more. I'll catch up with my friends later for a beer later in the evening. And I try to keep myself with this thought that, okay, so talk to the people who are
right.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's not, don't trick yourself in thinking that you're networking. If you're reaching out to the people you're just hanging out, right? Networking is, if we talk about the professional networking, it's different. So
you're with your friends at an event, basically. Okay, so finishing up, do you want to share something with the audience before we go? Any last tips, tricks, anything as an overview?
Well, of course, I would like to invite people to my event Arctic 15 happening in Helsinki in June 7 and 8, giving this little promotional spot here. So, and it's heavily about networking, about the matchmaking, building those relationships, and of course relate that, prepare, choose, if you look, there's some speakers or people, because now we have these online tools where you can prepare for the event. So of course, use those, find those targets and try to make very specific, rather get the one key target and go for that, hunt that person down, no matter, block them on the door, getting on stage or whatever, grab them when you can, focus on taking that one target. It will be easier for you to focus on one than I want to meet these 15 people. It's not going to happen, right? So choose your targets well, but go for the random stuff also. And welcome to Helsinki.
And Jan is going to talk to you, or at least try as well, to everyone. Not everyone, but
be careful, he is a chatter. No, but then now I'm obliged, of course, because I also have my colleague in the public, so I cannot then not invite you to TechBBQ in Copenhagen, 14th, 15th of September. And of course, similar topic. The main difference is we have a big barbecue in the garden. So and also being Danish, lots of beers. But that's and that actually is a good social lubricant, and it helps. Don't, of course, drink responsibly. But nonetheless, it's a lot of great topics as well. And we talk a lot with our partners from the Nordics and Baltics, and we always take a lot of inspiration from each other. And we talk a lot about the relevant topics, be it how to start a business, to the more societal issues of inclusion and so on. So, and regarding to, and also I think the last thing to mention about the networking tip trick, have fun with it. Have fun while doing it. I think it's the last thing that can be said. We really covered it all.
Thank you.
Right, the peer pressure is high now. I also have to invite you somewhere, right? Well, I will actually. All the startups, guys, those who maybe haven't heard yet about the Latvian Startup Association, I do encourage you to reach out. Male, female, non-binary, the world is diverse, the world is wide, yes. So, and we definitely welcome all kinds of startups. We do provide some support for growing, for thriving. So reach out to me, grab me. You can actually see my team here at TechChill in these hoodies, startin.lv. And as for we were speaking about the opportunities, how we are at TechChill, how after a long break, 2 years break, when the socializing skills are completely rusty and we don't feel like maybe talking to each other at times. But anyways, use this platform, seize the day. I do hope to meet some of you after this discussion if we raised some interest. Yes, please reach out and don't be shy. You won't believe it, I'm an introvert too, but who would say, right? I switch it off for the time of the event. So yeah.
Okay, thank you all. Just following up, I wanted to leave you with this last kind of like a task that we used to do with Tech Hub, and maybe you've done it with your organizations as well, is try to talk to someone you don't know, at least one person today. Make it your goal to talk to them, and remember that they most likely are as shy as you, or if they're not and it doesn't feel like it, they most likely just have done it enough times to tell themselves that, okay, I can do this. It's normal. I just go and talk to someone I don't know. So just try and make it your goal today for at least one person, meet someone you don't know. And
right, and if you feel like, desperate, like, okay, how do I start this conversation? What is the pickup line, then just say that you're on a mission sent by Līna.
Yeah, exactly. So it was your task. You don't want to do it, but you have to do it. So, okay, thank you, I did it. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.